Hello, everyone. Pastor Seth here. I hope this message finds you all doing well. I want to share a little bit about the sermon that I preached last week. We looked at the second chapter of Acts and the beginning of the early church. And we explored some of the marks of the early church. There were four defining characteristics that were highlighted within this passage. The first being attentiveness to the teaching of the apostles. The second being fellowship, Christian hospitality. The third, breaking of bread, which is an allusion to the Lord's Supper and sacraments, and holding fast to that which is holy and sacred. And then finally, prayer, connection and communion with God. I want us to think a little bit, though, about the first characteristic that is lifted up, attentiveness to the teaching of the apostles. For us as a community of believers today, it's what do we do with the earliest writings of the church, of the initial apostles, our gospels, the epistles, Holy Scripture. In Scripture, we see recollections of dark periods in the history of God's chosen people, the Israelites. The inclusion of these challenging remembrances tell us some difficult but vital truths about life that are important right now as we are walking through a challenging time ourselves. We are reminded in Scripture that life is full of ups and downs, mountains and valleys, joys and challenges. We all encounter dark and difficult periods in our lives. One of my favorite parables is the parable of the wise and foolish builder. It's found in Matthew's Gospel, in the 7th chapter. I'd like to share that with you all this morning. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rains fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house, and great was its fall. The faith, trust, and hope that we have in the redeeming message of Jesus Christ is our solid foundation that will help us endure the storms of this life and make it through dark and challenging times. What's important to remember, to pay attention to, is that the parable does not say if the storms come, because storms are an inevitable fact of life. What's important to remember with this parable is that faith is something that needs to be nurtured, looked after. We nurture our faith in a number of ways: daily devotional time, engagement in a faith community, prayer, spiritual disciplines. Nurturing your faith is the single best thing you can do to be prepared for difficult, challenging, and dark times. In the midst of dark winters, we have faith that spring will come, that the birds will return, that flowers will push up through the hard earth. We're in the midst of that springtime renewal now. Faith reminds us that even during the most challenging and difficult times in our lives, God remains present. Let me share another scripture passage with you from the Gospel of John. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it. We trust that though we will encounter dark periods in our lives, the darkness will not overcome the light. And so, friends, in the midst of this challenging and dark season we are in, keep faith. Spend time nourishing your faith, drawing closer to God. Lean on the church and build a strong foundation. Until we are able to be together again, may you be assured of God's love and God's grace that binds us together.